Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome. It is the fourth round of the Abruzzi Tin Top Sprint. After what was one of the maddest races we have had in the history of this series, back at Monza at the Temple of Speed, we have now found ourselves into a very, very as equally as terrifying territory. Welcome to the land down under. Welcome to Mount Panorama in Bathurst, Australia. 6 kilometers of circuits with what would be some pretty high temperatures. Let's have a look at the calendar and see what we have been through, what we have left. We are halfway through this championship with the Circuito de Jerez with VIR, and we have Monza all done and dusted, and now we have 3 remaining circuits left. Bathurst will be coming up very, very shortly, followed by Long Beach in the US of A, and then we head from North America to South America for Interlagos to round off the season, where that will be hosting the season finale for the second time in the series history. We've got so much to offer ahead of this qualifying session. For now, let's have a look at the championship standing. Jamie Nuttall is your championship leader here in the Porsches, and what can he carry throughout this session? Pavel Grishka, the Polish driver, ahead of Bobby Moss, who's been making a lot of maneuvers lately. He's 12 points behind the championship leader. Benzel in P4 ahead of compatriot of Samuel Kremers. Charlie Rudnicki pulses the last time out at the Parco di Monza. He's 6th in the championship with 31 points. Carnegie, followed by James Stone Radford. And then we find Lenny Hansen with Josh Hodson and Simon Norton. Martin Blankensteiner has had an up-and-down season so far. He's on 20 points. He's up with Mikola Uwanski, the Polish driver. He's just ahead of the Welshman Daniel Roberts for the White Leg Motorsport team, ahead of Piotr Dorobiala, Adam Sinecki, Tony Preston, Bjorn Eglis Calcet, and Alex Richards and Diogo Marquez. But that's not it. We have Milos Meski, Martin Tiska, and Louis Hesketh are the last ones left in the Porsche Cup. And what about our TCR? Tom Davidson at the top of the standings, but how will Craig Tordock go? He's the driver in form this half of the season, of course, with Andrew Pike and Mav Gardner. And rounding off the TSRC esports guides, it's Quinten van Wijngaarden in 5th, the only Dutchman in this field, with Vincenzo Stagnito and Nick Clibbens. Mauro Gabbiati, one of 5 Italians in the field. He is the second highest behind Stagnito, with Byron Forrest, the American, and Daniel Merchant there in P10. Then we find Paolo Miniti with Paul Smith and Paul Sims. And then we have Gareth Ronda with Francesco Carduolo. And then Daniel Bull, Antonio Morabito, Arn Solo, David Barnes, a brand new driver to the championship. What can he do in his debut race with Fabio Falci, rounding off the 20 cars that we will have ahead of this run in Bathurst? Well, what is happening? Well, qualifying is very much starting to get into its fine cuttings here. Before we head straight into this qualifying session, I want to say a big thank you to Abruzzi. We have strengthened our partnership with them ahead of this season. Ahead of this whole year of sim racing, broadcasts. We've got still so much to go about this year, and I'm sure we will be able to see all of those in fine form. But once again, thank you to Abruzzi for your continued support. So you can also, of course, go and check them out in the links below. But more about them, I think, in a little while. Of course, we'll do another race shout out for them. But it looks like our Porsches are going to be out there at this moment in time, really trying to get to grips with the circuit at hand. And we now just see the number 14 out there, which is at this moment in time running. That is Jamie Nuttall, our championship leader in the Porsche Cup class. But he's had a bit of a difficult season so far, Jamie. You know, we thought he'd come out swinging and be, have another successful season if you need reminding of the stats from him last year. Well, he didn't take place in the opening race at Silverstone. And the 5 remaining ones, he won them all. So far this season, he's had 2 wins in 4th place. But yeah, he is, of course, our winner from Monza last time around. A couple of drivers going out there and putting in purple sectors. We now have a look to our TCRs for the first time. This is the number 27. And that is going to be, I believe, not too sure. It's going to be Barnes. It is, for the first time, we're seeing David Barnes out here on the racing circuit. He is currently still just working his way around there in P7 for the moment. But, as you can see there, heading through a really, really tricky section right at the bottom of the mountain. And it looks like David Barnes will just continue and push on forward. What about Craig Twardock? Quickest so far out of our TCR drivers. He's just sitting half a second clear, even 0.6 of a second clear here of Francesco Cardiolo, who's in his 2nd race in the Tin Top Collective. The Tin Top Series. Mav Gardner in P3. We still haven't had the big guns come out just yet in the TCR class. We're just waiting for them to come over the line. There goes Mav Gardner. He goes 2nd. Craig Twardock does go a little bit even faster. 2 minute 14.1. Quinten van Wijngaarden goes to 2nd. 0.3 of a second adrift with a 2:14.4. Still looking fairly close up at the tall ends of this qualifying session with 2.5 minutes left to go. What are we going to be hoping for the remainder of this? Alex Richards in his Porsche Cup car will head over the timing beam. He improves once again, but it's still Janos Wenzel with a 2 minute 3.7. He makes his way on towards Quarry and up the mountain. He will start to ascend. The lap record for the Porsche Cup cars in these is a 2 minute 5.4, which has been pretty much smashed up already by Janos Wenzel. What about Paul Smith? Paul Smith goes over the line, P6 for the Breton in the number 33 cracked racing car. Beautiful livery of the cyan and the transition into the orange. What about Lenny Hansen in P7? The wheelchair racing team. He'll head his way through the left and in towards the right of these final couple of corners. The track temperature at this moment in time is sitting at a pretty reasonable 22 degrees, 20 degrees air temperature as well. Still partly cloudy, but we're not expecting any rain whatsoever. Hansen goes to 8th. I think Josh Hodson has just gone to P4 there. So really, really great stuff from him. But what about Quinten van Wijngaarden in his Hyundai for the TSRC esports team? He'll be flying down the back straight here at Bathurst, trying to use all of the circuit as he heads his way in toward the braking zone, trying to clip all these curbs and just straighten up the circuit as much as he possibly can. Sam Kremer's coming in quite late into the session within the last 45 seconds. The last kickings of this qualifying session goes to 6th place here. What about Quinten van Wijngaarden? Not sure if the sectors are looking too great here. Over the time beam he goes. And it doesn't look like there was an improvement dramatically. Maybe cut the corner slightly. Piotr Dorbiala, the Polish driver. Is he the highest ranked Polish driver? No, that goes to Paweł Griszka, who's at the moment on the front row of the grid. Not a lot of drivers, in fact, in the Porsche Cup, setting a lap time here. Piotr Dorbiala just goes into the pit lane. Martin Blankenstein and Jamie Nuttall, Karna Guy, Tony Preston, Bobby Moss, Diogo Marquez, and the debutant Guilherme Hamlin have not set lap times whatsoever here. But that seems to be the checker flag in this qualifying session. And it's Janos Wenzel and Craig Twardock taking pole positions here. So for Janos Wenzel, that's his first pole position of the season. And what a way to do it. And here is the grid. In fact, it just loads in. Janos Wenzel on pole position ahead of Pavel Grishka. Alex Richards will be in second. Josh Hodson will be in fourth, followed by Daniel Roberts and Samuel Kremers. Really good stuff there from those guys on the third row. James Radford will be in P7, followed by Piotr Dorobiala, the second Polish driver on this Porsche Cup grid we've seen so far. Then comes Lenny Hansen and Simon Norton to round off the fifth row of the grid. Onto the sixth row is Jamie Nuttall and Guilherme Hamlin. They have a great iRacing combination, which we'll get into during the race. But overall, what can they do from their row? Bobby Moss will be in 13, followed by Khan Nugayan in P14, followed by Tony Preston, Diogo Marquez, and Martin Blankensteiner, the 17 Porsches that are taking to the grid. Craig Twardock will be in P18. He's your pole sitter in the TCR class with Quinten van Wijngaarden and Mav Gardner. Then we find Francesco Carduolo with Byron Forrest ahead of Paul Smith and Paul Simpson, who's an all-pole 12th row of the grid. And moving slightly further down, we move on to Mauro Gabbiati and David Barnes, the debutant, only qualifying their 26th overall. What can he do from there? And then we find Gareth Ronda, Antonio Morabito, and Vincenzo Stagnito to round off the 29 cars that are going to be taking to the racetrack here at Bathurst. So first pole position of the series for Janos Wenzel. His highest position previously was third. So far, the pole sitter has taken one podium. That was all the way back at Jerez. He needs a good finish here, does Janos Wenzel. He is currently sitting 21 points back to Jamie Nuttall, who still has an opportunity to go and take a championship here. But if there's one place you want to be getting a good result, it is here at Bathurst, because of course he's already got his kind of drop score almost secured. That was when he finished 13th last time out at Monza. Meanwhile, in the tin top sprint, Craig Twardock had the ability to go and take the championship lead, but of course Tom Davidson's win last time out has put him in such a fantastic spot. 2 wins to Tom Davidson's name, 3 podiums, and hasn't finished lower than second. Some fantastic stats there for Tom Davidson, but of course Craig Twardock being behind. Yeah, he's got to finish within a top 2, I think, does Craig Twardock, because of course that 20 that third place that he got last time at Monza would be his drop score. So we're going to take those slightly into consideration. But for now, it is just about the racing, because we know that Bathurst is going to be such a tricky situation, such a tricky circuit, and it's going to be one for the drivers to really try and get through in this one. It's not going to be an easy feat for any of these drivers. They're going to have to really work these steering wheels before with the circuit that they've got ahead of them. The Porsche Cayman will pull in, and then we'll head round the final corner here at Murray's. Round 4 of the Abruzzi Tin Top Series is racing here at Bathurst. Decent start there from Janos Wenzel. He goes to cut off the 330, but in towards turn number 1 of Hell's Corners. He got a little bit deep. No, he hasn't. They're still too wide. Right at the back here. And then what about our TCR? They're going to be getting going very soon. There they go in towards turn number 1. Mav Gardner is going to try the outside line. Is he going to swoop through Hell's Corner, get the exit, and maybe even get ahead of Craig Twardock? Twardock, I believe, was on pole position with Quinten van Wijngaarden now up into second. This has been a horrible start for Twardock. He's now going to try and power his way through in towards Quarry Corner. This is going to be such a tricky situation because they're still side by side. Twardock will shoot that outside line and swoops it right around the outside of Quinten van Wijngaarden. The Dutchman wants to try and get something here, but that's Janos Wenzel. Janos Wenzel into the barriers here. And that is the pole sitter out of the race immediately. Crazy start to this race here at Bathurst. And we are only a minute into this race. Down through they go, in towards the S's, and through the dipper. Such tricky sequence of corner because you're really threading the needle of this race car. Look at that, a very, very tight-handed James Radford there. Right to the left-hand side for Forest Elbow. They make their way down the Conrod Straights here at the incredible Bathurst. This is going to be such a big section to try and get your passes done here. But what do you kind of do in this situation? Because there's a lot of cars around you. You've just got to try and stick yourself in a good place. Tony Preston hasn't been doing that. He's gone 180 degrees backwards at the Forest Elbow. He's going to try and spin the car back round, but he's got to be careful here with the TCRs coming up very, very soon. We've joined back here with Khan Nagayan down there in 12th place. He's chasing Sam Norton, it seems. Sorry, Simon Norton, my apologies, for P11. So not quite a top 10 here, but he's also got Daniel Roberts, the Welshman, right on the rear of the Polish driver. So still a lot of battles up for grabs in this 40-minute race. So it is Pavel Grishka from Josh Hodson and Alex Richards. Jamie Nuttall being a big winner in that opening start, making up 5 places along with Guilherme Hamlin. Those two combined have an iRating of 9.9, so almost 10k in iRating, which is unbelievable stuff just between those two cars exactly. And they'll pass their way through these such fast corners, heading on towards Philomé Putt, and then through Skyline and on toward the S's section. Hodson is just trying to hold on here with Pavel Grishka. And it looks like Diogo Marquez, as he lost the car. He looks like he's in the pits. Martin Blankensteiner never got going either. So the Cracked Racing Danish driver looking to be out of the race already. It did not start for Martin Blankensteiner. I think Diogo Marquez just had a couple of issues to do with him so far, so that's not going to be ideal whatsoever. Meanwhile, Craig Twardock has now got back in the lead of the TCR car. Someone's hit the back there. That looks to be Gareth Ronda. Gareth Ronda's into the wall on the outside of the S's here, and I think that might be a big amount of suspension damage. You see, I think the left-hand side is right the way down here in towards the Forest, the Devil's Elbow. That is going to be a real difficult moment here for Gareth Ronda. The Audi limping away. You see how the tyre is down there on the front left, scraping at the ground, and that is not going to be good news for the 230. I think Gareth Ronda has to go and call it a day. Meanwhile, Samuel Kremers is looking to gain and maybe another position here, but no, I think he's going to be losing one here to Jamie Nuttall. Nuttall on the outside. A big amount of curve from the German driver on that inside line, but Nuttall has gone on through. What about Guilherme Hamlin in his debut in the Porsche Cup category? He's going to launch it up the inside of the German of Kremers, and that's going to be a fantastic move there for 4th and 5th for both Nuttall and Hamlin. I think Nuttall is just absolutely loving. Oh, big hit at the wall for Samuel Kremers. That's going to be a little bit difficult for the suspension. I'm hoping he's managed to get away with that. We've not really seen anything too dramatic in this case. They plunge their way down the hill they go, and it looks to be now a battle between Simon Norton and is that going to be Khan Nagayan? It looks to be the Polish driver. They bounce their way through the S's and on towards the dipper. Those two are having a mighty old battle for what is only 12th place on the road. Oh my goodness me, that's Lenny Hansen. Lenny Hansen's gone round on the exit of the Devil's Elbow. And that's going to be a really, sorry, the Forest Elbow, my apologies. I don't know why I've been calling it Devil's Elbow. I think it's, I'm mixing it up with another part of the circuit or something along those lines. But Lenny Hansen drops back to 13th. Craig Tordock continues to lead out front. The British driver at this moment in time looking really, really strong so far. No qualms whatsoever, apart from maybe that opening first 2 laps where he dropped to third and then made his way back up into the lead. There's still some really, really strong stuff from Twardok. But through the left they go, and then we go back here to Piotr Dorobiala, who will now try and make a move here on Alex Richards. Jamie Nuttall, in the meanwhile, has made his way up to third with the fastest lap of the race with a 2-minute 3.8. That means that he is over a second faster than Josh Hodson ahead. He's going to be right on the back here of that number 88 in no time. And there he is, right there in front of your cameras is Hodson being chased down here by Jamie Nuttall. You see the really scary lime green pink car just being hounded down in towards the S's section. Where will Nuttall go? He has to get past it because Guilherme Hamlin, of course, is a rookie, but that doesn't mean that he hasn't got confidence in his race car, because he's being able to do what Nuttall has been doing. Of course, 2 friends, of course, so that is why Guilherme Hamlin is involved in this race. And it looks like Hodson goes a little bit too deep, but now there's going to be a train heading all the way down the back straight here and on towards that fast right hand up. And Nuttall will go to that right hand side. Will Hamlin be able to go straight on through it as well? They far through the left. Oh, there's a bit of contact. That's going to be Josh Hodson in the wall. Oh, and then it looks like Hamlin's gone with him. Horrible, horrible move there from the Luxembourg driver. I just think it was a misjudgment from Hamlin. He's going to be holding his hands up in that case. But Samuel Kremers has got himself back up to 5th. And we now see Hodson pulling into the pit lane. And what a disappointment there. That was completely not his fault. I just think that he tried to, or Hamlin just tried to get a move on somewhere and then just misjudged. I think he was trying to follow his cracked racing teammate through there, and it just didn't work out the same. The TCRs continue to battle on here. That's going to be Paul Sims defending from Paul Smith. So these two completely different teams, with Sims in that Honda being part of the Simoff Racing and Paul Smith being part of Cracked Racing, the same team that has Jamie Nuttall and Martin Blankensteiner and Guilherme Hamlin. But what about this little tussle? Of course, they've got Byron Forrest, the American, right up ahead as well. Of course, looking at Paul Sims here, he's had a little bit of an uneasy season, 14th, 12th and 11th, but this is his best opportunity to grab a top 10. He just needs to survive on the racetrack, and he'll be able to claim a fantastic result and be able to have that results back at Jerez as his drop score, which I'm sure will be absolutely fantastic. So if you are still a little bit confused on what I mean by drop scores, of course, Bobby Moss has gone around in his Porsche. That's right down at the Forest Elbow, and I think he is either flashing, blinking, I should say, or he decided to retire back to the pits. My live timing has said that he is still in P10 at this moment in time. So no problem. He's dropped to P11, so I wonder if that is just an internet connection issue from Bobby Moss, which would be a huge disappointment. Daniel Roberts now carries on in P6 here. So it's Grishka from Nuttall, from Dorobiala, with Kremers, Radford, Roberts, Nguyen, Norton, Hansen, Hodson, rounding out to your top 10 in the Porsche Cup, and Jamie Nuttall has gone and done a fastest lap here of a 2-minute 3.4. Again, 1.4 seconds ahead of Pavel Grishko. It's only going to be a matter of time before that move does get done. But once again, we look here with Paul Smith, 2 Hondas, 2 Pauls going at it down in towards the right-hander. And what does Paul Smith do? Because he's still a little bit too far back on his fellow Honda, using all of the curb in towards the chase, and they'll head in towards Murray's corner. I think Paul Smith is going to be really looking for an opportunity. He could potentially do it in towards Quarry Corner. I think that might be one of the bigger opportunities to do so. Then, of course, that would be some really difficult stuff. Griffin's Bend, of course, I was meant to say. But there's still a couple of opportunities, I think, around. I think drivers are just going to be working them up. Meanwhile, we've got Guilherme Hamlin still working away in P11. And he's just trying to press on here and get a potential move on 10th place Josh Hodson. He has had his repairs and is now back out onto the racetrack. But at this moment in time, you know, is there any possibilities of him getting a good result? You know, there is still going to be some opportunities, but I'm not too sure. You know, you're going to have to really rely on the drivers ahead of you to be making mistakes. But he is going to now peer out from the rear of Josh Hodson. And he will go past the Briton with the side draft. And it looks like someone's had a bit of a rage quit. It seems like from Mogzilla. Not entirely sure what that is, but I wonder if that is Bobby Moss. If you wonder what I was talking about when, of course, I mentioned drop scores. So each driver will go through a season, and their lowest point score will be their drop score. So unless you decide to not appear for a round, that will be part of your drop score. So for like Jamie Nuttall, first that fourth place would so far be his drop score, and then he won't get the points that he got in that weekend, and he'll go for the entirety of the drivers. Every single driver will have that to keep an eye out for. You know, it means the drivers need to be as consistent as they possibly can, and you know, not be getting like one bad result, or maybe 2 bad results. You know, you can't really have a really stagnant couple of positions, otherwise that's going to be real problems for your finishing position. And you know, that's going to be the difference between winning a championship and maybe finishing 4th. So we look back here with Craig Tordock for the Sim Racing Collective esports team. He's still running quite clear here of Mav Gardner. Also, Tom Davidson is not here tonight, so that will be part of his drop score. He's decided to take a break away from what is, of course, from what is looking to be a very difficult circuit. If you weren't here last time out at Monza, we had a very difficult race in the rain-soaked Parco di Monza. And of course, a lot of drivers suffering a lot from that race. I'm pretty sure we had 7 DNFs from all classes, which, sorry, I should say both classes. So that really just tells you how difficult we have had it so far in this championship. The highest I think we've had is 4, and that was back at VIR. So I think they've kind of been building over time, but of course Bathurst being another issue. How many are we going to be getting for that one, I wonder, because of course we've already lost Blankensteiner. This is Janos Wenzel. A little bit of rear going around there. Oh, he's gone into the barrier. And that is Janos Wenzel, who, of course, had a slow repair job. And then looks like he has gone back to the pit lane. So I think that was right at the beginning of the race. What about Tony Preston here in his Porsche? Oops, goes right around the rear being dropped then on Forrest's elbow. That's going to be massive disappointments for him. So we look back here with Preston, and you just see the rear just starting to get a little bit light here. And again, he's just dropped it down the dipper section. And oh dear, trying to get back going, but that's not going to be the way to do it. I think Tony Preston running at the moment in 13th behind Benzel. That's not going to be the most ideal situation. What about Lenny Hansen? So we have got a couple of replays here. He lost it in towards the elbow. Yeah, this was early. We saw the aftermath to this, and that could have been all sorts of Larry. But he managed to get going on that occasion. Currently run in P11. We look now back to a replay of Alex Richards in his Porsche. He's got a faster car coming up behind him. I just wonder if something's broken on that car. Okay, we're going very, very slowly in this case. Richards crawls away. So I wonder if there is a bit of equipment failure for Alex Richards, which is going to be absolutely heartbreaking for the number 22. And then Bobby Moss, who passed him a couple of moments later, went and did this. Lost the rear in towards Forrest's elbow, hits the wall twice, and that was the replay that we saw. And there was the suspension damage. He is right down there in 14th. Now Gareth Ronda, so we're seeing all of the replays. It seemed like the Audi heading in towards this next left-hander of the cutting. Oh, gets tagged by one of the Porsches. And I think the suspension is caved in a little bit on the rear left for Ronda. Oh dear, is he going to be able to get back going, especially with the Porsches coming through? That's not the best angle. Not sure what iRacing has given us there. But we are back to the live action. And it looks like that we've had a pit stop already in the form of Samuel Kremers. So not entirely sure. Sorry, Janis. Samuel Kremers. So not entirely sure what Kremers has done. I think he's just gone for a little bit of a tyre change in this sense. And that is going to be Paul Smith. Paul Smith with damage. You see there the front right sparking away there. And he's got a lot of bodywork damage. So he's smacked a wall here around the mountain of Mount Panorama. And he's coming back into the pits. But that looks to be a very, very unhealthy Honda. And oh dear. That is dragging along the floor. And he's going to pull into the box here. We'll see what happened here with Paul Smith. Makes his way up the inside of Paul Sims. Then takes a little bit of grass. And then makes his way down in towards the left-hander. Don't tell me he's lost it in towards Murray's, because that would be the worst place to do it. Onto the brakes he goes. And yeah, this could be the replay that we are looking for. Oh, has a bit of a moment in toward the dipper. Oh, no. Oh, dear. That was... yeah. That was just mistiming of braking. I think it was just trying to get the car under a little bit of control. And then it was just trying to gather it all up all together and not being able to do so. So big disappointment there for Paul Smith, and it's just leaning over there to the right. And wow, that is a lot of sparks to contend with. And he's made his way back into the pits. How long he's going to be there, I am not too sure. Pavel Grishka is in a very, very difficult position. He's got the Honda. Oh, Honda in the barrier. That's Paul Sims. And that's going to be a big amount of trouble. Now, are we going to be seeing Jamie Nuttall take the lead? We'll just confirm it. It is Paul Sims heading now down the straight here. You've got also another contention in Byron Forrest. There goes Grishka. There goes Nuttall. Will Nuttall be able to go in toward the chase here? Up the inside. No, still a little bit of space left between the back bumper of Pavel Grishka and the front bumper of Jamie Nuttall. Through they go. In towards Murray's. And out the exit. And Nuttall is now alongside Pavel Grishka. Grishka's now got to try and see if he could potentially just etch his way alongside. But nope, Jamie Nuttall has made the move here, but in toward the slipstream here. Nuttall is going to send Grishka around the long way around. He's going to have to be on the outside line. He's going to have to try and side drive the Englishman. Can the Polish driver try and get back ahead? He's going to have to be later on the break, but we know how confident Jamie Nuttall is in that Porsche Cup car. He's going to swoop around the outside, but with that inside line, it's smart driving from Jamie Nuttall. He's back into the lead of the race here at Bathurst. Francesco Carduolo up ahead, so it might not all be over. A bit of a slow up there for Jamie Nuttall, but I think Pavel Grish is going to try anything, daring in this section of circuit. As Guilherme Hamling goes and sets the fastest lap, it's a 2-minute 3.0 for the driver from Luxembourg, and 0.3 of a second faster than what Jamie Nuttall has managed lately. But he's about to go on an absolute tear here. What about Quinten van Wijngaarden looking for a podium here at Bathurst? This would equivalent to his first podium in the series, of course. With Mav Gardner just being in front of him, of course. Andrew Pike is not here, neither is Tom Davidson. So this is a big opportunity, I think, for Quinten van Wijngaarden to go and take a podium place. But what are the chances that will happen? Well, he's still got to keep it on the racetrack here. Not an easy task, especially when you're asking it from a circuit like Bathurst. That is one of the most difficult demands you can give a driver, to try and keep it clean, go for a even better podium place around the likes of the Bathurst Mount Panorama circuit on the side of a mountain. What about the debutant here, David Barnes? Well, Barnes is currently in a really, really good spot here. 8th place so far on his debut. Has gone up 1 place since the start. The biggest gainer, though, Vincenzo Stagnito, up 6 from the bottom of the pile, up to 6th place. In comes Kun Nagayan in his Hyundai. And there we see Vincenzo Stagnito, who's got a little bit of train behind him, his fellow compatriot Mauro Gabbiati, and then the debutant of David Barnes. This could be a really, really interesting fight, I think, especially between all of these three. TSR Racing, not really too celebrated in my kind of experience of Bathurst. Of course, the famous races of the Bathurst 1000 and the Bathurst 24-hour. Those races, but they're all GT3 supercar races, so nothing really done in terms of maybe TCR racing. I wonder if there is maybe a support category that takes on the Mount Panorama circuit, but this is something I haven't seen. But maybe we should. But maybe I should do a little bit more research on that side. 15 minutes to go left of this one, so we're over halfway distance into this one. And there are some really, really good surprises so far. Still a couple of drivers left to make their mandatory stops, but I think they're going to be trying to do that within the last 10 minutes. Well, once again, a big thank you to Abruzzi. You can check out their affiliate links to support the Sim Racing Collective. You can check out the code on the top right. It's TSRC10 to get 10% off their gloves, boots, and teamwear. That is TCR10 to get TSRC10. That is TSRC10 to get 10% off their gloves, boots, and sim racewear. Thank you so much to Abruzzi for everything and your continued support in the Sim Racing Collective. You can also check out our socials in the descriptions below, including a link to our website, our Discord, our SimGrid, our Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and Patreon to continue supporting the Sim Racing Collective. Any kind of chip-ins counts. Thank you so much. Anyway, we are back with the live action. David Barnes is into the pit lane, but he's not the only one. Byron Forrest has recently been in. Mauro Gaviotti has recently been in right in front of him as well. We've also had a pit stop from Mav Gardner. So if Mav Gardner has come out in fourth, what does that leave for the rest of the field here? We chime in with the Brisson, but his focus is going to be on Craig Twardock, who's just approaching or just gone round almost 3/4 of the racing circuit at this moment in time. There's still opportunities. I think that early pit stop may just close the gap slightly, but we know what Craig Twardock is like with the amount of speed that he has in that Audi. But similar machinery, same team, same nationality. There's going to be a lot of similarities with these guys, but I think that Twardock has just got that little bit of an upper hand in this case, putting it on pole position, having this really good run, and that is going to be Josh Hodson onto the on the grassy traps of Mount Panorama. That was off on the left-hand side before approaching the downhill section. How did Josh Hodson get there? Well, here's your answer. Lose the rear off the corner. So lucky. Oh, just had a little bit of a bash to the rear. That's going to be, not the biggest bill in the world, but it's going to cause a little bit of an indent. Hodson will get on his way. The highest rated driver who has pitted was Guilherme Hamlin, but we know that one's for damage. I wonder if it's Daniel Roberts this time around. So the Briton for the Mark Whiteleg Motorsports team. Really looking to see if we could just potentially push on forward and see if we can get anything out of this one, even if it's a top 6, maybe even a top 5. I don't know. But what I do know is that we are still in for such a hotly contested battle. This is not going to be over in any short space of time. There's still going to be a lot to contend. But overall, I think that we're in for some really close action racing. The rankings, the final results are not going to be they're not going to be decided just yet. With 11 minutes to go, anything can happen on the hybrid circuit of Bathurst. So we now look back here to Vincenzo Sagnito. He's going to get lapped here by 2 Porsches. They're not going to be minded whatsoever. He's more focused here on Mauro Gabbiati. He wants to be able to put himself in a really good place here, but it looks like that's the best he's going to get here, 7th, but it's a fabulous up 5 places here as Pavel Grishka comes into the pit lane. Now this is going to be an important one because he's come into the pit lane 40 seconds ahead of Guilherme Hamlin. This could be a really interesting moment in this one, because it does look like Hamlin is going to be approaching fast. I wonder if Quinten van Wijngaarden is going to be coming into the pitch, which he is. We've just seen that on the timing screens. You see that on your screen on the left-hand side. It says pits for Quinten van Wijngaarden. Meanwhile, Pavel Grishka is already out there on the racing circuit, so no difference there. And then now that's going to be down to Jamie Nuttall to try and respond. He's about to now go over the halfway around the lap as Quinten van Wijngaarden at the opposite end of the pit lane compared to what we saw with Pavel Grishka. And here is Mav Gardner in the battle for 2nd and 3rd. Now, will the Dutchman be able to get out ahead of the Briton, or will he have to slot in behind? Where is the Dutchman? There he is. It's 2nd place here for Quinten van Wijngaarden, but he's got to get up to speed here. There is probably going to be a difference of about 60 miles, maybe 40 miles an hour between the two as they head their way on towards the next right-hander. What about Samuel Kremers down here in 5th? Of course, he's made a couple of errors, down 4 places, but he's not the biggest loser. That goes to Alex Richards, down 12 places for the Briton, but he is already out of this race as Janus Wenzel is still the surviving driver. He put it on pole. He's down there in 12th place, not the result that he would want here around the Bathurst circuit. Quick sip of some water. And 9 minutes left in this race around Mount Panorama. We've seen some great action in the development of this race, in this championship, over the course of what has been a brilliant half an hour of racing. But, you know, with 8 minutes and 30 seconds still left to go, there's still many opportunities. So we've already done what is now 14 laps of this, I think 15 laps of the circuit. Are we about to see 16 laps? We definitely will. Mauro Gabbiati is now going to start having to play a little bit of cat and mouse here with what seems to be David Barnes. David Barnes, of course, dropping a place and going back to where he originally started. That's not going to be an ideal situation for the David debutant. In towards the next right hand, through the S's and on towards the Dipper. Really just trying to push their way through, and look at that, David Barnes getting on the flashlights, blinking away at Mauro Gabbiati, saying, you know, don't look there, look at, you know, look at the lights in the background, don't look at your braking points. And it's worked to some extent, dropping that gap down to 9/10 per second, but I think you just need a little bit more confidence, of course. With Barnes, this is going to be such a difficult race, I think, for him. You know, it's such a tough first race to kind of get into. You know, Bathurst is one that demands confidence in a race car, but not overconfidence. You know, otherwise you will send that car flying into a barrier. You know, you've seen, I'm sure you've seen the Aston Martin Vantage that was, you know, on its side at some point up the tallest part of the mountains. That's, you know, that's the results of what happens when, you know, you get a little bit too overconfident and start flirting with the barriers like you're at a nightclub in 1999. Meanwhile, James Radford is going to start pushing forward. Oh, he's getting right up to the curbs there. He's going to start flirting away with the barriers at some points in his pursuit for P7. He's got Josh Hodson in front of him, who has been in the barriers already. Doesn't want to be in them any more than he already has done. But, you know, there's still some top battles that have gone on. Meanwhile, Jamie Nuttall has, in fact, pitted. Grishka is in second, and Guilherme Hamlin has dropped right back down to P3. Meanwhile, Piotr Dorobiala, I think, is in for his best finish of this championship. Was Dorobiala joining the Porsche Cup a little bit later compared to other drivers, but he took a 4th place last time at Monza and looks to replicate that. We now continue here with Radford up against Josh Hodson. Both have lost kind of places since the start of this race, and they're just batting away with themselves. This is Radford hoping not to lose places compared to the start of this one. Yeah, because he still has to really be able to, you know, get that confidence in the car, and then, you know, he can also use traffic. I think that's something I've been failing to mention all throughout this race, that traffic is going to be so important in this one. You know, we've got 29 cars on the racetrack, and it looks like the Porsche is going to be able to get through on the TCR, and that is now going to see one of the Sim Racing Collective esports guys getting lapped then. The 200th, that's going to be Craig Wardot getting lapped then. So back with keeping themselves. I think this is the only battle with less than a second amongst the Porsche Cup cards. So not too bad so far, but I think the pit stops and those first stints have really been decisive in these final results. It's just about trying to nurse that car home all the way to the end of this race. And the effort that goes behind some of these guys, their racing has been unbelievable. Still so much to contend, but the focus has just been on another level for pretty much everyone else on the circuit. But what about Radford here? Has he got a run here on what seems to be the number 88 of Josh Hodson? Through the chase he goes. He's going to look to the right-hand side. And now, is he going to be able to make a move? No, he's not. He's going to try and get later on the brakes and just try and get Josh Hodson looking away here. He's onto the grass in. Radford now finds an opportunity in towards Murray. He's just going to stick himself right on the inside line, hard on the brakes here for Radford. I wonder if that's just the damage coming into effect for Hodson, just maybe a little bit more of a loose rear end, or maybe the brakes have got slightly worse here, but it does look like the Hodson is still going to try and maybe get something here, but again, just is unable to do so. But through they go up Quarry Straights, and then they'll head their way through the next right-hander of Griffin's Bend, and again, still side by side. But we've seen this all before. Hodson on that outside line, but Radford on the inside. Is he going to be better on the brakes? No, Hodson manages to get back through. So all of that effort from Hodson, and he's got to go and do it all over again. So 2.5 minutes left to go. It's just all about kind of the positioning of where the drivers are, because it looks like Jamie Nuttall is going to be able to get onto lap 18 of this, or should I say lap 19 of this race here. He's just approaching one of the TCRs, that being Vincenzo Stagnito. So that means we're going to be getting another 2 laps to this race here in Bathurst. And he moves just to 4 seconds drift of Pavel Grishka. And the Polish driver, well, does he have a reply? Not really. The stints have been, very, very good from Pavel Grishka, but they've just been another level for Jamie Nuttall. He's gone up 10 places. He's probably gained the most places out of any driver in the Sim Racing Collective Tin Top Championship Series. Again, still been superb, but again, Nuttall has been another cut above the rest, and it just shows with it's almost 6k iRacing. How many drivers have got over 6k iRacing out of all the users? Because trust me, it is a big tough ask, having to go through rookies, having to be a fast driver, survive all the races, be clean as well. And to get that amount is an absolute stunning amount. If you want to know the exact number, it's 5,770. What about Guilherme Hamlin? Well, again, I don't think he's going to have a response here, but he's the only driver at the moment lapping in the 2 minutes 2. So, never say never at this rate. Meanwhile, it looks like James Radford is still behind Josh Hodson. Is that car running out of tyres? I can assure you it's not running out of fuel, but is it running out of tyres to be able to get on through the 88 car? He's just seemingly struggling as a whole and not really got the minerals to be able to get through here. Meanwhile, we look back here at Sam Kremers. I wonder if that's been a mistake here from Lenny Hansen. He looks a little bit slow going up Mountain Straight, but wide for Kremers, out onto the marbles. And that's going to be a little bit of trouble for Kremers. If he can get an exit, that's still going to be positive stuff. Meanwhile, Jamie Nuttall is going to go over the line here and start the final lap. It is the white flag for Jamie Nuttall, the Briton in the Cracked Racing team. Looks to be heading towards another win. His 3rd win of the season. He had one in Jerez. He had a struggle moment in Virginia. He mastered the conditions of Monza, and then in another circuit which has been full of difficult corners, straights, tightness and mobility, he has once again been the king of the Panorama. But there's still half a lap to go here for our winner. Mauro Gabbiati once again is going to be looking here at P7 up against what seems to be Vincenzo Stagnito. So the 2 Italians will be going at it. Sagnito's been pretty impressive recently, but again, I want to give a shout out to another driver a little bit further up. We won't cut to him, but Francesco Carduolo, P4 for the Audi driver, and he's just been in his second race, and that is some superb action. But we're getting a great view here of Mauro Gabbiati, seeing what the drivers can see out of the windscreen. Trust me, it would not be the cleanest view, but he's got a little bit of a run here on the Hyundai. But where do you go? Where do you go? Where do you go? Because you're now heading in towards the section where overtaking is like forbidden. This is like trying to overtake at the hairpin at Macau. It just isn't happening. You might as well recall it a restrictive zone, in which in Macau's case it is. But we will now have to look back here at Jamie Nuttall, because he's having a look here. Through the chase he goes, and with 1 corner to go of Murray's, Jamie Nuttall is just dominating this championship once again. He'll round the final corner. It is the king of the Panorama for Jamie Nuttall. And what a victory, his third of Season 3's campaign. And an incredible race here. It'll be Pavel Grishka to come home in second. And on his debut, it'll be Guilherme Hamlin. What if he hadn't crashed into the back of another driver, of Jonas Wenzel? Well, I would love to know. Vincenzo Stagnito has been overtaken right to the death here by what seemed to be Gabbiati, but Gabbiati was not able to both right on the limit. It will be, of course, the top 3 still have not come across the line. It will be Carduolo to confirm his best finish of this championship in 4th, ahead of Byron Forrest, ahead of Paul Sims, and that battling duo of Italians of Vincenzo Stagnito and Mauro Gabbiati. David Barnes will be in P9 on his debut as a TCR driver in the Abruzzi Tin Top Series for the Sim Racing, brought to you by the Sim Racing Collective. Craig Torduck, meanwhile, will head his way into the chase, and he is just trying to negotiate these last couple of corners. He will lead once again a Sim Racing Collective Esports 1, 2, 3. Craig Torduck, it's been likes to flag brilliance for the Audi driver, and it could even be the championship lead for Craig Torduck. So that's only provisional so far, but according to my calculations, it should so be. Quinten van Wijngaarden will come over the timing beam. He will come and take second, his first podium in the Abruzzi Tin Top Series, and Mav Gardner will come home in P3. A great day for Mav Gardner. I'm sure he will take that and run with it for the next season. But an unbelievable race here in Bathurst. That is 4 down, 2 to go. We head to North America of Long Beach before heading to South America of Interlagos. Of course, we will cover that calendar once again at a later stage, but we are just having the cool down laps of this race, so what can only be described as some really good, fierce racing. It was competitive, it was fair, but overall, I think we can really say there was some really, really good results. Well, here is your final classification. It was Jamie Nuttall up 10 places to win here in Mount Panorama, and again another circuit he can tick off the list of wins. Pavel Grishka will take his 3rd podium of the campaign ahead of Guilherme Hamlin, and then it will be Piotr Doribiala ahead of Daniel Roberts, the Welshman, climbing up a good amount of places to put himself up in that top 5 with what will be Khan Nugayan, the 2nd Polish driver, ahead of Josh Hodson and James Radford. Lenny Hansen and Samuel Kremers will round out the top 10. Then it's his compatriot Jonas Wenzel, I'm pretty sure was the driver hit by Guilherme Hamlin. Of course, forced into, no, sorry, my apologies. He made a mistake himself on the opening lap, and then of course it all just went downhill from there. Simon Norton, Tony Preston, Alex Richards, Bobby Moss with DNFs, Diogo Marquez, and then did not start for Martin Blankensteiner. Really, really difficult for him. But we look to the TCRs. It was Craig Twardock from Quinton Van Weyengarden with Mav Gardner in P3 and Francesco Carduolo in P4. He grabs another fantastic result for his campaign. Then we find Byron Forrest ahead of Paul Sims, Vincenzo Stagnito, Mauro Gabbiati, David Barnes and Antonio Morabito round out the top 10, with the retirements being Paul Smith and Gareth Ronda. To round off your 29 cars that took to the grid here at Mount Panorama after what was the very scary conditions of the Autodromo Parco di Monza. But overall, that is going to be some really, really top stuff. We're just going to wait a little bit more for interviews. But in the meantime, let's have a look at the calendar. And there it is. Circuito de Jerez, and then VIR, and then Monza. We've had 2 rounds in Europe, which have been completed. We are going to be having 2 rounds in North America. One is done in VIR, one is coming up in Long Beach. We've gone to Australasia, and then we've had, of course, 1 round in South America. So with Bathurst coming up, Bathurst now done. We've now got Long Beach coming up. So how are those tough streets going to fare ahead of Interlagos on the 20th of May at 9 o'clock? But of course, Long Beach, a really, really tough circuit. Very, very narrow. A very, how do I put this? You need a rhythm around that circuit. That's going to be such a tough competition, I think, for all of them. If you're able to get a good lap in, especially in that qualifying, you're going to be set up right for the race. But it doesn't look like any interviewees are willing to jump in the commentary box with us so far. So that will be it from us. From myself, Adam Reed at the Sim Racing Collective. We will see you in a week's time when we head to sunny Long Beach for the penultimate round of Season 3 of the Sim Racing Collective, sponsored by Abruzzi. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Good night.